Welcome to my channel General Hospital, where you can get news about. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. And I am your buddy. Now let's get started. Dante barely hangs on after being shot, and as he remains on the move, Jason realizes he's been injured. Today on General Hospital, Curtis offers to help his father. Sonny and John argue about their past, and Heather tries to kill Cyrus. Credit: ABC screenshot. At home, Curtis is on the phone with Portia and can't wait to show her the progress he's making. Marshall enters the room and asks if Trina is home. Curtis says she's out. Marshall says just Trina needs time, and time does heal all. Stella appears and says the man who knows, and asks if he told Curtis. They sit down, and Marshall breaks the news to his son that he was misdiagnosed, and he has been off his meds for an entire year with no symptoms. Curtis asks why he didn't tell him earlier. Marshall says Curtis had other things going on. Plus, he felt like a fool for running out on his family. Curtis notes he did what he thought was right at the time. But he's here now, and he doesn't have the schizophrenia diagnosis hanging over his head. Marshall still doesn't know what happened to him back then. Stella admits she's been doing some digging, and she found out who the doctor is that signed off on Marshall's diagnosis. Curtis thinks they can get the answers they need. Marshall thanks Stella, but says no thanks. Marshall wants to focus on the life he has now. Stella says she doesn't want to add to his pain, but he's been suffering from this mistake for 40 years, and this is his chance to set himself free. Whitey eyes your definition of evil. Curtis agrees and tells his dad he's not alone, and he has him. Curtis wants to help him do this. Marshall can see it's Stella and Curtis against him, so he agrees to find the doctor who misdiagnosed him. At the hospital, Laura finds Cyrus in the chapel. She tells him they are still waiting on his test results on ACE, and is surprised that Cyrus can be sweet when he wants to be. He says there is nothing he won't do for those he loves, or what he'll do to people who try and hurt them. Laura appears concerned. He says he never claimed to be a saint, but his attempts to change are genuine. He says being a part of her family has filled a void he didn't know existed, and spending time with her has made him a better man. Laura knows there is goodness in him, but words aren't enough, and he has to figure out how to do the work on his own to prove himself. She says she is grateful for his help tonight. He just hopes she can keep Heather away from Ace. Laura says she'll be going back to Pentonville soon and won't be a problem. Laura gets a text from Liz, who says Ace has an ear infection and will need antibiotics, but will be fine. She decides to go get his prescription filled, and Cyrus thinks he deserves a treat for being brave. Laura likes him this way and sees that he is learning to be a part of a family. Cyrus says that means a lot, and to keep him informed on how he's doing. She says she will and takes off. Cyrus sits back down and thanks God. In her room, Heather works to pick the lock on her cuffs. The guard enters and says he is here to take her back to Pentonville. Heather cries she's still in pain and asks him to get her some water. He goes to get the water, and she attacks and strangles him with her cuffs. Heather knocks him out, while outside her room, Amy and another nurse talk about Cyrus and his nephew, and that Cyrus is in the chapel. Heather sneaks out when the coast is clear. Heather finds Cyrus in the chapel. He asks what she's doing here. She says she's here to pray for an answer. She wants to know why he gets to live while her sweet Esme is dead, which doesn't seem fair. Heather pulls out a bone saw and says she wants him to suffer the way her Esme suffered. She yells Esme came to him for help, but he betrayed her. Cyrus explains he was trying to prevent something bad from happening. Heather screams he didn't, and her daughter died struggling in that water, but she will avenge her. Heather vows she will become the mother to Esme's son, whom she never got the chance to be. Suddenly, Laura enters and clubs Heather over the back of the head. Heather comes to and is cuffed, and Laura tells her she's glad she's okay. Heather says that's the sweet Laura Weber she knows, but she didn't have to hit her so hard. As the guards try and take her off, Heather stumbles and struggles to breathe. Cyrus assumes she's faking, but Laura notes she doesn't look well. Suddenly, Heather gasps for air and collapses. Dex and Joss are speeding back to Port Charles and are concerned about what is going down. Joss calls Brick to find out where Sonny is and learns there's been gunfire on the waterfront. Dex wants Joss to get off at the next exit, but she refuses to leave him. John says Karen was his high school girlfriend. She was smart and beautiful. She was a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and it messed with her. Sonny then convinced her to take charge of her life by stripping in his club. He says Sonny also gave her drugs to calm her nerves, and then he slept with Karen. John tells Ava that's the man she's standing next to, and the man Anna's been defending. Sonny regrets what happened then, and if he could do it again, he'd do it differently. He says Karen was abused, hurt, and acting out. She came to him as she needed somewhere to go, and he was there to help her by listening to her and understanding. He cries there is a lot Jagger doesn't know about Karen, and that's the real reason he hates him. John accuses Sonny of exploiting damaged kids. He did it with Karen and then with Stone. Sonny calls Stone his brother, but John says Stone became his ticket to redemption. John states Sonny was dirt before Stone, but then everyone talked about him having a heart of gold and how he was a generous philanthropist, and Robin canonized him to Port Charles. Sonny insists he loved Stone, and John says he may have, but it still worked to his advantage. He says Robin came to love Sonny too, which is why Anna defends Sonny. Anna asks if John is finished here. John says he has a case to work on, and it's not bringing Sonny down. John storms out, and Anna gets a call and excuses herself. Ava tells Sonny for what it's worth. She believes he was trying to help Karen, but Kate's never will, and an FBI agent with a grudge is a bad enemy to have. On the pier, Jason stays by Dante's side and tells him not to talk. He says he'll help him, and he calls for paramedics. He tells them a man was shot twice on the pier and just passed out. He takes off Don's vest and wraps his jacket around his chest to keep pressure on the wounds. He hears the sirens in the distance and tells Dante he's going to make it. Jason takes off. Dex and Joss arrive and find Dante, and Dex notes someone did a field dressing on him. Dex says they need to plug the bullet holes, and Joss picks up the phone lying next to him. The 911 operator is still on the line, and she tells them she can hear the sirens and asks how long till the paramedics arrive. Chase arrives, and Dex informs him they don't know how bad the bullet wounds are. Chase feels his neck and isn't getting a pulse. Dex performs chest compressions, and Joss gives him mouth-to-mouth. They get a pulse just as the paramedics arrive and take over. Chase tells Dex and Joss they saved Dante's life and asks if they found him. Dex says they didn't. Someone else bandaged him and elevated his legs, and Joss says they also called 911 and the operator was still on the phone when they arrived. Back at the warehouse, Sonny tells Ava there is another problem. He reveals Spinelli has cameras all over this place with footage that Jagger can't get. He expects to be detained, but she won't, so she needs to get to Spinelli. She thanks him for trusting her and heads out. Anna returns and tells Sonny she has a car waiting to take them to the hospital, and that Dante has been shot. Later, John is informed by an agent that a camera has been found. He realizes it was part of Sonny's plan, and he needs to find what network the camera is on and where the footage is. Jason is on the move but pauses in an alley and has blood on his hands as he's been grazed on his side. At the Quartermain mansion, Sam and Olivia clean up after Scout's party, and Sam says Scout was so happy that her dad threw her this party. Talk turns to Dante, and Olivia says she's glad she and Dante found one another and make each other happy. They embrace. Sam decides to head out and leave Scout here with Drew. Olivia can sense something is up, and Sam admits she and Drew had their first big disagreement about Scout recently. Olivia gets that, and parenting is hard. Sam says it's not that there is friction between them, but Drew has changed since coming home from Pentonville. Olivia remembers when Dante came back with PTSD, and it was as if he was a different person too. He went through hell, but then Sam came along. Olivia says when Dante talked about Sam, and they weren't even a couple then, she saw the spark back in his eyes. Olivia says Dante needed something to live for, and falling in love with Sam was a big part of that. She thanks Sam for giving her son back. Olivia wants to be nosy, and Sam can tell her to butt out, but wonders if she and Dante plan to make things official. Sam says she thinks they like things the way they are. Suddenly, Joss and Dex show up with the news that Dante's been shot. On the next General Hospital, Maxie knows what two people have been doing. Cody admits to Sasha this was an opportunity to spend time with her. Nina says, "I'm afraid you'll just have to trust me." Spinelli asks Ava why Sonny sent her. Alexis says, "What I'm not sold on is you." In the hospital,